I'd call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is the July 9th Planning and Zoning regular meeting. We'll start off with roll call, please.
Carey? Here. Walton?
Here.
Kimball?
Present.
Stephenson?
Here.
Happy?
Here.
Wilhelm?
Here.
Okay. For anybody that has an agenda in front of you, we're going to jump around just a little bit. First, we're going to start with amendments to the agenda.
Yeah, we're going to not do the development impact fee committee. There was an inquiry about what proportionate share of the multimodal fees was out of the transportation fees, street fees, and that wasn't itemized out. So staff's going to work on that and make that modification to the report and bring that forward at a later date.
Sounds good. All right. Next item, ceremonies, announcements, appointments, presentations.
Yeah, so yeah, it is a National Sugar Cookie Day. That's why you guys had the sweet treat on your way in.
Not yet.
We also, the planning department, would like to introduce Kelly, new to the City of Post Falls Planning. A great new addition. We're excited to have her.
Hello. My name is Kelly Ray Matthews. It's lovely to meet you all at the Planning Commission and citizens of Post Falls as well. And thank you for introducing me, John. I am really excited for this chance to serve here as a planner and learn a lot from all of you, and I'm really excited. I've watched a few commission meetings to familiarize myself, and it looks like a really great group of people who are trying to do their best to serve their community, which is exactly the kind of place I want to serve best. And I'm a recent student at Eastern Washington University, just finishing up my master's degree, and they're in urban and regional planning. And before that, I worked at different nonprofits and have a lot of experience organizing community events, and building community relationships is one of my strongest skills. And I love economic development as well. So I'll be here to serve. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else, John?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. We already did our amendments to the agenda. Any declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts, or site visits?
No.
No.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar, please.
Yeah, we got action item A, which is the meeting minutes from the June 11th, 2024 Planning and Zoning meeting.
Does anybody have any questions on those?
No.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay. We have a first, any second?
I'll second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Kimball?
Abstain.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Happy?
Yes.
Wilhelm?
Yes.
Carey?
Yes.
Walton?
Yes.
All right. Next item is citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on items not on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Do we have anybody who wants to speak citizen issues not on the agenda tonight? All right. Seeing none. Unfinished or old business? Looks like we have nothing. Correct, John?
That is true. Thanks.
All right. Then we'll move into our public hearings tonight. I think I saw already a couple of you guys. If anybody's got a testimony for any of the hearings tonight, please fill out the paperwork. Bring that up front over here. And we'll start with the first hearing, which is the Spencer Townhomes, file number SUP 24-3. And we'll open that hearing.
Evening, Commissioners. Ethan Porter, one of the planners here with the city, here to present the Spencer Townhomes Special Use Permit, SUP 24-3. The owner of the proposed project site is going to be Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance. The applicant is the ZBA Architecture. They're requesting review and approval for their special use permit to allow 4 duplex units and 8 townhome units to be developed within the Community Commercial Services Zoning District. So Looking at the project location, you can see it's east of Spencer Street, right there, south of the railroad, which is south of Celtice Way. And so it kind of runs along there, and a little stretch of the frontage there. So that kind of gives you an overview of kind of where it is. You know, Highway 41, I-90 interchange is far to the right and the east on that map. So, looking at the current zoning, here you can see it's south of the railroad. Like I said, it's the red's going to be community commercial services zoning. You have the gray, light gray as industrial, and then the dark gray heavy industrial. You have some R3 zoning, which is kind of that orange color. The brown's going to be the residential mobile home park zoning for that. So that kind of makes up a majority of it. Surrounding it's going to be CCS zoning there, commercial. So kind of gives you the idea of the zoning in that area. Looking at the Exhibit A3 within the staff report, you can see kind of their proposed conceptual plan laid out here. You can see their duplex units shown there on kind of the majority of the left-hand side of, and then they have that future phase, which are going to be those, what they're saying, townhomes. That's pretty much just going to be fourplex units for planning. As far as we look at it in planning, it's a multifamily structure, but it's townhouse construction build. So that they're not really townhomes, but they're more of multifamily buildings. So 4 units, 4 fourplex, and then the duplex is there to the west of those future development. So that kind of gives a layout of what they're proposing on that site. Exhibit A6 within your staff report also breaks down that open space calculation and kind of gives a little more information on the entirety of the site, kind of where their open space is located, how much they need, what's provided, and they do provide more than what is required for that. There you can see it shaded in the darker gray. And then within those open space, they do have amenities, which I'll cover in the upcoming slide as well. With that, some additional information for the site. It's currently vacant lot, and it's over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. The wastewater would be provided by the city of Post Falls. The city does have a willingness and capacity to serve the site at the proposed request for the special use. Water would be the city of Post Falls as well for the purveyor. So we do have the ability to serve that site as well. Looking at the traffic, there's the proposed requested special use is not anticipated to produce impacts that would adversely impact the adjoining transportation systems, being Spencer Street and Celtice Way there. And Spencer Street being the minor collector, you have quick access to get from there to Celtice Way, which is that principal arterial to the north. So it is signalized at that intersection, and that roadway does have capacity per the staff report. So looking at some of the review criteria, the first one, review criteria A, would be looking at that proposed use constituting an allowable special use as established for the zoning chapter, and then the district involved, as well as complies with all applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations of the city and the state. So within city code, we do have the land use category table or land use table. CCS, which is highlighted there on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see that duplex and multifamily, 3 or more units per structure, do require an S, which an S requires or is noted as a special use permit. So that is why they're here tonight requesting that special use permit, because they're requesting duplex and multifamily units within the CCS zone, which they're allowed to do. And review criteria A, kind of continuing on, we have the community garden and the play area as their open space amenities there. Per the multifamily design standards, we do have requirement to provide those 2 amenities, and so they do provide those 2. Looking at the review criteria B, looking at that special use conforming or not conforming to the purposes of the applicable zoning district, kind of what we already stated, it is allowed through the land use table as a special use permit within the CCS zone. Upon development of that site, they'd have to follow Title 18 requirements upon development. And like I mentioned as well, the multifamily design standards. So that will all be required at the time of development. Looking at review criteria C, we kind of look around the surrounding area in the vicinity, making sure that the proposed use will or will not be compatible with health, safety, and welfare of the public or with land uses in the vicinity. So I kind of outline the area here, you have, starting from the west of Spencer Street, you have Spencer Place Apartments. You move east, you have North Spencer Seniors, which is south of the proposed development or the proposed special use permit. And then we have Post Falls Senior, Post Falls Secure Storage, the Promenade condos, and then the U-Haul is currently owning the other kind of top portion next to the proposed Spencer Townhomes. And then we have the railroad north of that. So this kind of gives you an idea of what's around. Predominantly, it's residential, and then you have some storage facilities, U-Haul and Post Falls Secure Storage. So hopefully that kind of outlines and gives you a better idea of this area and land uses surrounding the site. Review criteria D, we dive into the comprehensive plan, goals and policies, making sure the proposed use will or will not conform to those. Within the staff report, I go into detail on more of these, but to highlight goal 1 and 7, we grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity with fiscal health. And then goal 7, plan for and establish types and quantities of land use in Post Falls, supporting community needs and city's long-term sustainability. So these goals and policies may be applicable for, this proposal and kind of supporting that through this process. So policy 1, we look at the land use patterns, making sure they support and maintain enhanced community level service, foster long-term fiscal health community, maintain enhanced resident quality of life, promote compatible well-designed development, and then, like we're doing now, implementing goals and policies, the comprehensive plan. We also look at, and I highlight just a few more, just policy 8, 15, and 19. A lot of it does encourage the compatible infill development, making sure you have future housing land for the need for the future, and then encouraging that cluster of units in new residential development, providing service efficiencies and creating opportunities for private or community open space, which multifamily design standards does provide. With that, we sent a notice to jurisdictions and the agencies. Here's a list of what we sent to notify them of the proposal of these agencies. We received back 5. One would be from Post Falls School District, we remain neutral, and then Kootenai County Fire and Rescue, Kootenai County Fire Department. It's really should say Kootenai County Fire and Rescue. They coordinate at the time of development for their comments. And then Post Falls Police Department remains neutral. The Yellowstone Pipeline has no impact and no questions. And the Post Falls Highway District has no comment as well. And I would like to highlight in the staff report, there was a typo in the public process section towards the end below the agency notice to agencies. It says subdivision. It is not a subdivision. It is a special use permit. So I apologize for that. That was a error and oversight on my part. And then to highlight this a little bit more with kind of your guys' decision and your motion tonight, and their special use permits, Title 18, 2070, that section, you are allowed, upon granting a special use permit, you can put further conditions on, as outlined on the screen, those 6. So just to give you, kind of for your convenience, other conditions that you can put on for special use permits. With that being said, I will stand for questions you have for staff.
Is that going to be one driveway? I mean, is it a driveway or a road, or what is that?
Correct. Yeah, they'll only have one access off Spencer Street, and so
Okay.
they'll be able to come in there, and then they'll have to provide fire turnaround,
Okay.
which has already been discussed. Their conceptual plan kind of shows a hammerhead turnaround, and so that's kind of what they'll do is they'll come in, they'll do a basically
Okay.
hammerhead turnaround.
So that'll be maintained by, is there an association, or how does that?
It'll be maintained by whoever's maintaining that site, for the
Okay.
landscape and all that
Okay.
stuff. So yes.
Are we requiring anything special buffer-wise between the development and the railroad tracks?
I believe whatever's in the staff report, which I believe a condition is
I didn't
for a
see that.
fencing. The
Okay, I
fencing's
missed
supposed to be in place per that condition.
Ethan, I think that there aren't any, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there are any railroad users east of that site. I think the only potential user would have been the old potlatch plant, even that's, I think, closed right now.
You're talking about Plummer Forest?
Or, I guess Plummer Forest, yeah. It used to be
And that's-
potlatch, but,
That's west of this site too, so.
right, it's
so
west of it.
I don't know of any users to the east.
I don't think there's anything to these, just, I think,
yeah.
just car storage, or
Potentially.
siding.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if staff has other things to say on that, they can chime in, but to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any
That's
major
essentially an
users for that
unused railroad track.
Correct.
Okay.
Decorative.
Yeah. Community beautification.
That U-Haul is currently under construction, right?
Correct, yes. They have approved site plan and they are constructing currently.
Will there, and maybe this is for the applicant, will there be any connectivity from that road to the U-Haul to go through, or
Per
is it
their
just-
approved site plan for U-Haul, there is no connection. It
Okay.
is sectioned off and kind of maintained. There's a
Gotcha.
security issue there. I'm assuming that U-Haul wants to maintain
Sure.
and
Okay.
make sure it's secure, so.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Invite the applicant up. Cool.
Yeah, there's just a rendering, if I can share that.
Yeah, which one is it?
That one?
Oh, that was
No, that's you. That's me.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
Name and address for the record, please.
Sarah Breedy, and my home address?
Well, business.
Okay,
is-
421 West Riverside, Suite 860, Spokane, Washington. I'm with ZBA Architecture. I'm the architect on the project, and I think Ethan really covered everything pretty well. I guess we have a concept rendering here just to show you the duplex is sort of a flavor of where we're headed. I would just underscore that it's this kind of odd little skinny lot. There's not a lot that can be done with it, and what we're proposing is a housing type that doesn't exist in this area, so it'll provide a nice variety of housing choices for people. Yeah, we have got some carports if budget allows as part of our plans, and the street will be private, so the ownership will maintain the street and the grounds as part of that. Landscaping to meet code, all of those.
Is there an HOA or something to maintain?
No, it'll all be under the same ownership. So it's, I believe you'll have a, do you want to speak to that? The home ownership component?
I can.
Yeah.
I'm Maggie Lyons, and I'm the Executive Director for Panhandle Affordable Housing Alliance. So right now, we're undecided on that, actually. There will either be central ownership or potentially an HOA, but that will be addressed because we've got the road to maintain along with the park, and the garden area and the play area.
And that's kind of all
Thank
I
you.
had. Any questions for us?
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
So, just to be clear, so it'll be owned by Panhandle, okay, and these will be rentals?
No, there's a home ownership, correct?
We are contemplating both, but we are leaning to home ownership.
Okay.
It depends on how it pencils
Okay.
for us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public testimony?
That perspective.
No? All right. No need for rebuttal in that case. All right. Close out the hearing. Go to our review criteria. Or,
So based off that, I do want to add one clarification. So that means if they're looking for homeownership options, they would be looking for both the multifamily options in this SUP as well as the townhome option in the land use chart that Ethan presented.
Maybe also twin home as well, right?
Twin home, yes. So pretty much
So-
that list that he showed would
Pretty
be
much the list, yeah, they're
the-
asking
those
for
4 items would
The
be.
whole thing.
Just wanted to make that clear.
which is all special use.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
That doesn't change the analysis they need to do. All right. Chairman, Commissioners, going through the criteria, what's before you today is the consideration of the Spencer Townhomes SUP 24-3 special use permit for this townhome configuration. Number one, whether implementation of the special use would or would not conform to the purposes of the applicable zoning district, being CCS.
Well, it can be a use with a special use permit, so it's permitted use that way.
Right, and it's not just the multifamily, but twin home and townhome as well. Are all three of those are special uses underneath that and conform to the use.
Number two, along the same lines, whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by this chapter for the zoning district involved and complies with all other laws, regulations, ordinances of the city and the state.
Right, to that end, it's in the land use table as a special use, and then the other ordinances and regulations have to do with the site setbacks and multifamily standards, which it looks like they are meeting or will be required to meet under site plan review.
Thank you. The next criteria is whether the proposed use will or will not be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with land uses in the vicinity of the proposal. And this criteria really focuses on the compatibility.
Right, and I think even though, I'll jump in a little bit, probably talking too much, but
No.
even though it's industrial north across the tracks, it's zoning wise, it's not the use. So the uses across the tracks are, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little retail store. I think Dairy Queen's across the tracks
it's close,
there.
yeah. It's all commercial
It's all commercial stuff. It's not industrial. It's within walking distance and it's also on a walking distance of commercial uses. It's immediately adjacent to multifamily on the south. The railroad tracks are rarely, if ever, used. And so it's compatible in that regard. You know, it's a high safety, low risk railroad track, if you will. And I think, and it's also it's really close to the bus route as well. So I think it meets the transportation requirements for compatibility, as well as it's compatible with uses in the vicinity.
Agreed.
I agree.
And I always think it's important to note that nobody's testified or provided any evidence to the contrary as well in some of these hearings.
Right.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. Finally, the final criteria is whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the goals and policies found within our comprehensive plan. So if you could guide a few pertinent goals and policies, that always helps in the drafting of the decision.
The first one that jumps out at me is infill. That's kind of a weird area right there. You're not going to be able to put too much in there. This type of product does kind of fit in there. It does have the apartments behind it and a lot of residential in that area. I think it fits pretty well.
Right. Policy 1 supports land use patterns. So the land use pattern in that vicinity immediately adjacent is, of course, multifamily and residential. And this fits right with that. The future land use map shows this whole thing as multifamily, or as high density residential, excuse me. So it fits that criteria. Policy 8, which is what he talked about here, is infill development and redevelopment of vacant or underutilized properties within city limits. It's policy 8. Policy 15 talks to adequate land being available for future housing needs. Townhomes and duplexes are underdeveloped in Post Falls. And so there's definitely a need for that. Access, policy 20 talks about access to arterial and collector streets, and it accesses right onto Spencer, which is a collector. And if you need any more, I can keep going, but. Okay.
I think you're good. All right. That's all right. 4 of them? Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioners. Then proceed to deliberation.
All right. I think we're all on the same page, but let me just double check. What does everybody think?
I think it's great.
gonna fit well.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's needed.
Yeah, I think it brings a different product to that area. You know, it is a kind of a weird shape of land, but the railroad is either not used at all or very rarely, so that safety is not really an issue anymore, and different type of product that we've been, this missing middle that we keep talking about.
And it's a good use of a piece that has different things around it. You know,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
kind
correct.
of going to blend in and be comparable
Mhm.
to, comparable to the ones that are around it.
Right, it's really awkward.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
there's
is a-
very, very few types of uses that would go on there, or, so it's probably the highest and
The
best use.
Yeah, that you
highest
could
and
put on
best
that
use of
piece.
I agree.
I agree that.
What could be an undervalued piece of property, so.
Yep. All right, with that being said, if anybody wants to make a motion.
I will. I move to approve Spencer Townhomes Special Use Permit, file number SUP-24-3, finding that it meets the approved criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code as outlined in our deliberations, subject to conditions 1 through 2 contained in the staff report, and I direct staff to prepare a reasoned decision.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor,
I'll second that motion.
and we have a second. Have a roll call, please.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Hampi,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Kimball.
Yes.
All right, that is approved. Next item on the agenda is our second public hearing. The Aspen Cottage and Tiny Home Special Use Permit, file number SUP 24-4. And we'll open that hearing.
Evening again, Commissioners. Ethan Porter, one of the planners here with the city. So I'm here presenting the Aspen Cottage and Tiny Homes on the staff side. And so the owner, Noah Stam, is here tonight, as well as the applicant, MacArthur Engineering, to represent. And they're requesting the review and approval for a special use permit to allow the detached cottage and tiny homes to be developed on individual lots on approximately 2 acres as part of a larger, like 6-ish acre development. So here you can see kind of where that project location is. It's south of Craig Avenue. It's dead ends at Terrace Street into the property, and then Corbin Road to the west there, running north and south, connecting to Celtice Way. So I-90 is just south of that as well. They do own the larger piece to the south also, to the south of the site, and so that's part of the larger project that they're looking at doing and getting that tiny home and cottage home special use permit over this, as it's outright permitted in this southern parcel they already own, which I'll show you here in this slide, since it is zoned as R1 for the subject property we're talking about tonight, but south of them it is zoned R3, so the tiny home cottage homes would be permitted outright, but not within the R1 zone. That requires a special use permit. So this kind of shows the makeup of the zoning around the area. You have predominantly R1 single-family homes surrounding it, other than the site they already own, which is R3 zoning. And so, again, Corbin Road runs north and south to the west there, and then it connects up to Celtice Way. And I-90 is just south of that. Kind of looking at Exhibit A3, what they submitted, I highlighted the portion that were kind of in discussion, that northern part being the special use permit request for tiny home and cottage home detached product. And then this kind of shows you their overall project to incorporate that R3 zoning parcel to the south. It lines up with Corbin Road. It continues Terrace Street south and then lines up with that cul-de-sac in Corbin Road. So you can see that traffic circulation there. They do provide some private drives and some alleyways there to kind of access to some of their lots there, and kind of as a conceptual idea. They can explain more on kind of what that looks like when they come up and discuss, but that's kind of gives you an idea of the conceptual plan. Looking at Exhibit A6 kind of highlights their open space requirements. You can see that hatched in red there, kind of what they were providing for open space and meeting that requirement per our design standards and performance standards for cottage homes. and tiny homes as well. So this does just kind of highlight the cottage home dwelling, and again, I'll have them explain a little more on that product type, but the use itself, they are requesting a special use permit for the R1 zoning. Looking at the site itself, currently it's vacant. It's over the Ratcham Prairie Aquifer. The wastewater is existing within Corbin Road, and the city is willing to serve the site and has the capacity for what they're requesting. And then East Green Acres Irrigation District is going to be the water purveyor in that area. And traffic, kind of looking at that proposal they're requesting is not anticipated to produce impacts or create any issues for Corbin Road, which is a local roadway. And that proposed private alleys and roadway sections for the design will need to comply with Kootenai County Fire and Rescue as for the requirements regarding turnarounds and parking restrictions. So that has already been discussed for staff, and I believe fire is already aware of that. So looking at some of the review criteria, this highlights section 182432, basically allowing, or this proposal being an allowable special use established by, that Post Falls Municipal Code section. It's in the Cottage Home Code. It does require a special use permit within the CCS and R1 zoning, and since it's an R1 zoning for the subject site, that is why, we're here tonight to have this hearing. The Tiny Home Code, which is, I'll comment as well later, but it's not yet fully approved via ordinance. It was supposed to last week, but there were some hiccups, and it's going on next week to be kind of approved through the ordinance by City Council. So they, in that draft or that ordinance, they have the same restriction as far as special use permit in the R1 zone. So cottage and tiny homes both would be requiring the special use permit, which is why they're asking for both. Review criteria B is implementation of special use will or will not conform to the purposes of the applicable zoning district. So kind of like I mentioned before, it's hand in hand, this one and the last review criteria, but that special use is required to have those uses in that zoning district. And so here you can see that ordinance to be approved next week, City Council, that is on the agenda for them to approve. Was supposed to be approved prior, but I think we have to amend the conditions for this proposal to say pending approval of the tiny home ordinance for next week. So take note of that it was supposed to already be approved, but it is not yet.
So Ethan, would that be a condition?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
That'll be a motion that you'll have to condition and put that on for, they can have the tiny home use as long as that is proposed and approved, the ordinance next week, and City Council approves it. So. Looking at review criteria C on the compatibility and the health, safety, and welfare of the vicinity, I kind of highlight some of the R1 subdivisions in the area. You have Casey's Place subdivision, Bluegrass Point, Don's Place. All those are R1 single-family subdivisions surrounding that vacant lot there. The rest of them that aren't kind of labeled are just remnant pieces of irrigation tracts that were just subdivided out over time, and they aren't part of a R1 subdivision, they just happen to be large lot residential homes. And so with that being said, it is, looking at that compatibility, single family with single family, and, you have single family platted lots that's potentially proposed next to single family platted lots as well. So review criteria D looks at the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. To highlight some of the goals and policies, we have Goal 7, looking at the types and quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting the community needs, city's long-term sustainability, as well as Goal 15, maintain and improve the city's water and sewer infrastructure, anticipating future needs regarding population and regulatory conditions. I know the sewer, as mentioned, was already available for Corbin Road. That would be brought down for this project. That would help those existing homes there, the larger lot residential parcels, to basically have the access to that sewer if they decided to develop at a later date and time. So that would help that. Policy 1, supporting those land use patterns, again, maintaining enhanced community level of service, fostering the long-term physical health of the community and maintaining and enhance resident quality of life, and then promote that compatible, well-designed development. So, policy 6 is one I wanted to highlight in here as well. That's encourage residential development patterns, typically featuring those bulleted points. The last bullet point doesn't really apply as it's not next to Highway 41, but we have housing that faces the street edge, interconnected grid or small block street network, street sections designed for safety, traffic calming, and aesthetic appeal, including narrower lanes, sidewalks, landscaping, and lighting. Development and utilization of alleys for parking and service access. So keeping those in mind. And then we have the infill development, which is policy 8, kind of underutilized lots, which this would be the case. Policy 15, and making sure that adequate land's available for future housing needs. So just to highlight some of them, it goes into a little more detail within your staff report, but that's just to highlight some. And then again, we noticed the jurisdictions and the agencies around, and of these agencies notified, we received 5 back. So sorry for the repetitiveness, but they do have all the same comment as the last public hearing. So Post Falls School District remains neutral. Kootenai County Fire and Rescue coordinated at the time of development. Post Falls Police Department remains neutral. Yellowstone Pipeline, again, no impact, no questions. And Post Falls Highway District has no comment. And I will state that same issue in the last public hearing. Again, it is a carryover typo. It's not subdivision in the public process portion of the staff report. It is supposed to say special use permit. So, again, forgive me for that. 182070, special use permit section in code does grant the Planning and Zoning Commission conditions that they can put on that are here, as you want to utilize them. So, with that being said, staff will stand for questions you have at this point in time.
So there are 3 conditions already, but,
Plus the pending
and then that would have to be
Correct.
added as a 4th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ethan, I saw what I thought might have been property lines on the site plan. Is this,
That conceptual plan?
yeah, the conceptual site plan?
Mhm.
And maybe the applicant can speak to that. Would that then, if it was a subdivision, would it then need to come forward through the subdivision ordinance as well?
Correct, yeah, this would just get that special use for that northern parcel that they have in the R1 zone, and that would allow them to continue from that southern R3 zone parcel to continue their product type throughout.
Okay,
And
so this is just kind of a concept
Yeah,
thing, and then
correct.
they'll,
The subdivision will have to come forward at a later date if they want to do that
They want it.
detached and platted lot for
Okay.
cottage homes and tiny homes.
okay.
Do you know, and maybe I missed it in here, is there any fence or barrier around with the existing homes that are there? Maybe that's a question for the applicant.
I'll leave that for the applicant.
Okay.
I think they probably have a little more extensive knowledge
Sure.
of the site than I do, but, yeah.
That's good. Any other questions?
So the road will be actually extended
Correct.
from,
Yep, Terrace Street on the north there, right in the middle, will come straight south and then loop and tie into Corbin Road right there as their little
Okay.
roundabout.
Oh,
So-
Okay.
okay, all right.
okay,
So, and I believe that will be a public roadway if I'm not mistaken. So, and their private drive will be that loop on that top, that northeast portion there,
okay.
so.
And Ethan, I'm gonna test your memory on the cottage home and
Go for it.
tiny home ordinances, but I think they do require some sort of perimeter fencing or screening, do they not?
They, fencing, particular is prohibited unless it's for amenities, like if they're doing a pickleball court or something, then the fencing along that to keep the balls and stuff inside is allowed. Other than that, there are restrictions for fencing, but I believe it allows next to other developments to put up a fence.
Okay.
But interior-wise, I believe they are prohibited to some degree.
Okay.
I think it's like maybe 4-foot fence. That is a stretch from memory, and I'd have to go
Right,
read that
and
section,
it's
but
probably not fair of me to ask you, considering it's just we're talking about the special use, not the actual nuts and bolts of
Mhm.
that, so.
I accept the challenge.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Ethan. Applicant, like to come up? Name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. Scott MacArthur, MacArthur Engineering. Here on behalf of Summit Builders and Development. And this is my favorite part of the night. I get to fumble through my epic narrative here to find what Ethan missed. Yeah, I think Ethan did a great job covering it. Again, this is a conceptual layout. I did find that fence code in there, Ray, Mr. Kimball. Just basically allowing, as Mr. Porter stated, the fencing near the pickleball courts and dog runs. One of the biggest challenges with this property is the off-site infrastructure that's required to be improved to serve this property. To make this work, the density has to be at a level that will offset those costs. There's significant sewer infrastructure that is required to be extended in Corbin Road to serve this property, and at which time that sewer hits the property, it's very shallow. So it's going to require mass grading on the property and development through the site. So I think that we've discussed that with the developer, and they're content with that based on this overall project. I know we're here tonight to talk about that northern 2 acres, but this is one large 6-acre parcel that was created in 2021 through a boundary line adjustment. So it's not 2 separate properties, it's one large parcel. So that's why you see the conceptual development shown before you tonight. We're asking overall the density could be somewhere in the 70 range, 70 units on the property. We do meet, as we've shown and noted in this layout, all the open space requirements, not only just for our proposed portions that will be condominium units, but also for our tiny homes and our cottage homes. There are frontage requirements for public roadways, for your open space, et cetera. Again, all those conceptually have been placed on this exhibit that's in front of you tonight for your understanding and observation, I guess, for your questions. So one reason I like this project, I guess it's maybe a 2-part, is one, I recently lost an employee who's having to leave the area because he can't afford to live here. And I also lost another potential employee that couldn't afford to move here. Business owner, I don't want to see that happen. So affordable, obtainable housing is what we need in the city. And this is a great infill open space property that serves that need. As part of this development, I guess one of the biggest misconceptions with higher density areas is the lack of maintenance. So we're working on a maintenance program that will oversee through an HOA program the entire development. And as Mr. Kimball pointed out, we are proposing lots. We will go through a subdivision or a condominium process to create ownership opportunities for people, not just rent and lease opportunities. So that'll be the secondary step that we'll take after this, hopefully, special use permit is approved. We've spoke with emergency services. We've discussed access routes and parking and guest parking and snow storage and all the questions you could possibly come up with that usually are a part of developments like we're requesting tonight. And so we feel, conceptually at least at this point, we've met those requirements as far as, how far do you want to push snow? How safe is the access? How do you provide parking for Thanksgiving? How do you provide, parking for your grandma who wants to come visit you in your new house? We've addressed those through this layout, and we'll continue through the site plan process, site development process, to improve those and better articulate those through full development of the plan sets. Excuse me. Again, Ethan did a great job. I just wanted to point out that, as city staff has pointed out, we meet all of the zoning and development requirements as outlined in the cottage homes and the proposed tiny home code. And we're in conformance with the comprehensive plan goals and policies. And I believe we meet and exceed the city review criteria for the acceptance of this special use permit. I'll stand for questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That Terrace Street, you're building that first section. and then the other section, you don't know when. Is that gonna go in at the same time if this is approved? Or is that down the road?
There's an existing portion of Terra that's extended to the property
Right.
currently, and we'll just extend that. And this will be a one-shot development. It might be a phased development, but that improvement will be required.
But that
because
street will go all the way?
That's our plan at this time, is to extend that street all the way through. There's challenges that come with that with respect to traffic, through traffic, and some traffic calming improvements will be made to that if that layout is submitted and approved. But at this time, this is the conceptual layout that we're looking at.
And Terra will be a public road?
There are public frontage requirements for your open space, public-private, I guess. You can work on private streets as well. And at this time, we're looking at portions of it being public, portions being private, portions of the development, the roads in the development, alleyways, private streets, and public streets.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a question that, just to bring that back up again, about a buffer between these and the other housing parcels that are already there, means that these can't build their own fences, so they're not going to be building fences to buffer. Do you have plans, or what's?
There are perimeter fencing, there is perimeter fencing on most of the properties. There are some
Which
of which
parts
has fallen down.
are you gonna do?
To the north and to the east, there are perimeter fences. But we will meet all the setback and landscape buffer requirements with the
I
development.
know, but I
as it's
mean, I'm
submitted.
just trying to be sure what you're doing to buffer against these homeowners, because these people aren't going to be building fences.
Right.
So they've got, the homeowners that are already there do need something to protect them from just,
So right now, the only portion of this property that's affected for this special use permit tonight, and again, the development plan will come forward with buffering and that in the future. But the 2-acre piece we're discussing tonight, the only area that, to my knowledge, that's not protected currently by a fence between the residents is that western buffer, which is a gentleman we have here tonight in the crowd that's here in support of the project, and of which we actually purchased the 2 acres from. So there is no planned fence at this time, but not to say that it's not forthcoming with the full subdivision submittal.
And the cottage doesn't require a fence because it was drafted in the context that you have a single-family residence next to a single-family residence. They're both single-family individuals living adjacent to each other. But you can put up a fence up to 6 feet. I think we have a 6-foot max that you can put on the perimeter, I think. But you can still do the administrative exception like anything else to get it to an 8-foot if you wanted to. But I don't believe the cottage requires a external perimeter fence.
Each future cottage lot, tiny home lot has a green space requirement as well that's associated with it. And conceptually, as these are laid out right now, with the front access on this portion, those green space areas would be in the back. So it would be a buffer between the structure and the neighboring parcel. But the code regarding fences, at least in the tiny home section, there's exemptions to the code requiring, where it states that no fences are allowed with the exception of dog parks, tennis, pickleball courts, community gardens, swimming pools, et cetera. So there's no, like Mr. Manley stated, there's no perimeter fence requirement in this area.
So I'm not, can you show me which ones are the cottage homes on there? Like the the upper portion?
Currently, if you look at the 2-acre piece, the
about-
cottage, at the
Okay.
north end of this property here.
Okay.
That's the area where cottage homes and tiny homes are proposed.
Okay.
And so you have, this layout, tiny homes were still in discussion.
Okay.
And so this layout only depicts cottage homes at this time.
Oh,
And so we
okay.
haven't
Okay.
intermixed the two, but there will be a mix between the two, cottage
Okay.
homes and tiny homes.
All right.
Which have very similar aspects.
Right, okay.
But we want to break up the monotony of a
Yeah,
standard
okay. No, that
cottage
makes
home
sense,
style.
yeah.
So-
That's why I was just trying to figure out if I was, so.
Yeah, yeah. So the north 2 piece, there's kind of a defining line in this area, but
Okay.
you'll see that how
Okay.
it's extended. So again, one of the big challenges to serve this property with sewer are the grades. and the bury depths on the sewer. And so that, again, is probably the primary reason why this infill property's never been developed with residences before.
Okay.
So as I look through your narrative, I see that the southern part is existing R3. It's not really subject to what we're talking about tonight, but it is kind of part and parcel to
Right.
the site plan that we're looking at. And it's 4.21 acres and at 18 units per acre, which we can get up to, I think, 22 in Post Falls now with bonuses. You're looking at 76 to 86 probably.
That's, yeah.
Multifamily, so 3-story,
This is
apartment
that
units.
alternative,
That
yes.
could be
Yeah.
there, and then you could slap, today, you could probably get a road in there, T-bone it, and throw in, 5, 6 lots, R1 lots, maybe. So you're
Which-
looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of up to 90 units, whereas what you've got here, you're looking at quite a bit less than that, and a much more diversified product than what we already have in Post Falls. Is that a fair?
Correct. Very, very well stated. The 2 acres as well, if it were to be developed with R1 lots, the cost to extend sewer to the property could not be offset by those. So
Okay.
it would be a project that would never take place. So
Theoretically, like to Vicky, Joe, Carrie here, Commissioner Carrie. You could place a condition theoretically to put a buffer around the perimeters of the special use permit. One thing though to consider is the 4 acres to the south, because it's permitted outright. If the cottage home doesn't require it, then you could end up with a delineation along, let's just say, the west and eastern boundaries where you'd have some buffer, then it would just stop 100% and go forward because there'd be no avenue. That's where the difference between and where special use permits, there actually is some advantages to them, is you can actually create and impose things higher than what code requires. But this one being the fact that there's 2 areas and 2 zones, then contemplating how that would look holistically and as on the whole site. Did that help at all?
Yeah.
And it sounds like some of those existing houses there, much like a lot of us probably already have fences around their yard, so parts of that barrier is already there.
Right.
So there might be pieces that are missing, so.
And it will be coming back as a
And
subdivision.
it will be coming back, exactly,
So when it
yeah.
comes back as a subdivision, they're gonna have to show examples of each product type and show setbacks
Mhm.
of how each lot is gonna fit within that subdivision.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'd like to invite Noah Stam to speak to you, if I can get a couple of extra minutes on it. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
All right, for the record, Noah Stam, 1831 North Lakewood Drive. Good evening, Commissioners. Noah Stam and my wife, Emily, is here. We're the ones hoping to build this beautiful development for the citizens of this town. Scott did a great opening phrase about, kind of the special use and what we're after. So I'm going to kind of take my couple minutes to kind of explain the need and kind of the ask, from the city. So we were both born here. Me and my wife were born, raised right in this town. She went to Post Falls High School. We love it, and we're raising our own family here now. We have decades of experience, I guess, as the family, her family and my family do in the area, building, developing. So it's kind of in our blood to do this. We honestly just want to make a difference in this community. As we have kids growing up, we want them to afford a house one day. And all that. So the ARC is a proposed development offering nice, affordable houses for people who actually live and work in the community. This crazy idea started about 1.5 years ago when I realized not one of the kids I went to high school with ever came back after college. And they all were born, raised here, but can't afford to come back and live here. And I think it kills me that my friends can't come back and live here. Well, once I started kind of doing a little more, research and stuff, this is a big problem, this affordable housing. So I kind of set out to find a solution. And after about 1 year of, different products, different layouts, the one in front of you guys today is pretty much the perfected plan of how we can combat this housing crisis. So honestly, I just want to pull up a couple quick facts. Kind of crazy. The average realtor and loan officer can't afford to purchase a house over $300,000 right now, which if you look on the MLS, there's not very many and that price point. Teachers, police officers, servers, construction workers, they're all part of that. It's really the backbone of our community. And I feel like if we don't start doing stuff to combat this, I mean, we're going to lose a lot of our valuable employees. And when you go to call 911, who knows if they're going to show up, or who knows if your kid's going to have teachers next year. I mean, it really is a problem. So we came up with this solution, I guess, if you will, to do these cottage tiny homes in hopes that we'll be under 300,000. And we've talked with some banks that are interested in doing the mortgage for them, and we're trying to do 0 down. So it'd be no down payment. Your monthly mortgage will be $1,800, and you own the lot and the land. It's yours. I think where was I going to leave off? I get like the city's hands are kind of in essence tied on what they can do for builders and developers. I get you kind of got to be careful. Not to upset, the taxpayers. But what I'm asking to do is just think out of the box a little bit on how we can get this project to life. I truly believe that if any developer is willing to come in and try to build true affordable housing and take profit cuts and all that, I think they deserve at least some breaks, I guess, if you will, through the city. And I think the city can help us out here in a couple different ways. Reimbursement for the Corbin Road extension. We're going to have to, of course, do quite a bit of utility work. So I think there's ways that they can slowly over time, maybe as sewer hookup fees, get added to that line that we're going to do, we can get, slowly reimbursed for that. Reducing permit fees. I know a lot of the stuff I'm going to say kind of like makes you fluster a little bit, but I think there's ways we can do a couple of those. Expedite civil plan and permit reviews, impact fees due to the city, maybe at CO of the project, just stuff like that, and of course approval of the special use permit. I think these are just a couple of the ideas that are in the city's power to do. And like I said, I mean, this is a team effort. It's going to take the whole city. It's going to take all of us to be able to, start producing products like this to get people into, that first-time home buyer situation. So I guess kind of conclusion, I just want to, ask if you'd think out of the box with me like we kind of did to develop this whole deal. It hasn't been done before, so we can kind of be the pioneers of this. We can show other cities how it's done. I think it's cool that you guys have the opportunity to, do it with me and show our area, hey, there's actually a way to get these houses affordable. There's actually ways to put families in houses. So yeah, I guess I will take any questions kind of based on that. I know it's a lot of info and kind of wanted to, yeah.
When do you think you could get going on this if everything kind of goes your way? And how long would that take to build?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that, well, I guess it isn't dependent on, how quick we can get things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm proposing that I think that we could build 10 houses every 2 months. Once it gets up and going,
okay.
We'll do 10 houses every 2 months. That's kind of the plan. I'm hoping, honestly, to have the first couple purchase ready by first part of next year, if it's possible. If we can get rushed
okay.
permit, all that.
In the
If not, if we have to go through, long, lengthy hearings and stuff, I mean, then we're pushing into June.
Right. A year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I would like to have all the homes completed by the end of next year, if at all possible.
Okay.
We're gonna go on the ground swinging with this for
It's
sure. We have
ambitious,
all
yeah.
the subs lined up. We have cost to builds that are down to the dollar of what these things are gonna cost. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this folder that you gave us.
Yes.
What's the reimbursement for the Corbin Road extension?
Well, so that was kind of one of my, out of box thinking, I guess. Because here's the problem: is we have a pretty substantial bill that we're gonna have to front to do the Corbin extension. But I think, under my understanding, when that goes in, the city will have quite a few lots around it that can all tie into that sewer system, right? So, and of course, they're gonna have to pay to do the hookups. So my thought is, can the city somehow over time reimburse me a little bit of that or a percentage or something along those lines, right? So down the road in 10, 20 years, when you guys just added 40 or how many hookups that they can get off that Corbin one? I don't know, but something like that. So I guess my thing is just trying to get the cost down. Yeah, outside of my development, not the ones that we have on this plat, but other ones, right? Because when we do that main line down Corbin, you guys will have access to quite a few other people that are currently on septics that can, switch
That's
over.
for a different day, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that
that'll be
kind
for
of for-
that's a conversation
Yeah,
between
I'm
the
just trying to
developer.
get the ball rolling, going, hey,
Right.
like, we're trying to do this, but we need help from everyone, right?
That's
Yeah.
just a discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Correct, yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a conversation for another day, but it's definitely,
Yeah, I mean, it was just here,
sure. No,
right
that's
here,
good.
so.
Clarification, yep.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Perfect.
I think we have some public comment. Thank you. All right, wishing to speak in favor, Maggie Lyons. Just name and address for the record, and you have 4 minutes.
You bet. Maggie Lyons, address is 2961 East Ponderosa Lane, Hayden Lake. So lucky me to get to be back up here to talk to you guys about this incredible opportunity that we have before us. Through the work that I've been doing, we've been talking about this now for over 2 years, and the potential that our private market has, along with our participating jurisdictions, to drive development of homes that can be priced within the range that our local workers can afford. So the staff here in Post Falls has been terrific to work with. We have just launched a worker housing neighborhood called Miracle on Britain. We went public with accepting applications less than a week ago. 150 email responses and now over 40 completed applications submitted. The stories that we are hearing are gripping. It is affirming, we knew it, but it is affirming how desperately needed this local worker housing is, right? And it's home ownership. 70% of our workers want home ownership, about a third want rental. So I, in meeting with Noah and Emily and hearing their hearts for this work as a developer, it really is very encouraging that they want to take their resources and do this. We have talked about partnering with them on deed restrictions. I don't know if they're going to pull that trigger, but that would ensure, of course, that once they're built, they will forever stay within the price range that's attainable by the wage that is defined by that home. So I applaud their efforts. I love their hearts. I love their brains to be able to do this. And this actually could be the shining example for all the developers in our area to understand what's possible, and for our cities to cooperate and collaborate on this effort. So that's why I'm speaking in favor of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wishing to speak yes in favor, Kirsten Fritz. Name and address, please, and you have 4 minutes.
My name is Kirsten Fritz, and I live at 615 East Bora Avenue, Coeur d'Alene, 83814. I'm a little nervous, sorry. I'm nervous, but I'm here to support this. So I am here to support the Aspen Cottage and Tiny Homes project, and I hope to encourage the approval of the special use permit to allow this development to begin. Affordable housing is an issue all over this country, and it is an issue right here where we're living. We need to pay attention to this issue as it impacts the overall well-being of all the individuals in this area and families and economic stability as well. According to the U of I report that came out in February 2024, the percentage of Kootenai County households able to afford to purchase homes fell from 75% in 2016 to 20% in 2023. Local rental prices have risen so sharply that many low-income families pay 50% or more of their income for housing right now. As of early 2024, in Kootenai County alone, there was 3,890 jobs that are unfilled, specifically due to lack of housing, which affects the growing number of residents that are moving out of the area because they cannot afford the cost of housing. One of the biggest things that I came across is that of the recent college graduates, and these include college graduates with limited student loan debt as well, 80% don't qualify for buying in Kootenai County. And that is according to the county median income study by the University of Idaho. And this also includes child care workers, mechanics, mental health and social workers, chefs, head cooks, and school teachers. I'm here because I'm ecstatic to hear that there's a project in our community period that is specifically addressing this housing issue and is helping to provide a solution to this ongoing problem. Hopefully this will inspire others to take action and work towards creating more affordable housing options for those in need. Housing developments that are targeted for first-time buyers are important to our communities for several reasons, as it addresses housing affordability that it provides options that are within the reach for individuals and families with lower income. It promotes home ownership, which also affects financial stability, wealth building, and then development projects that can help people achieve the goal of owning their own home. And hopefully this will promote other developments coming forward. And it enhances social equality as well. It also fosters community development, and affordable housing projects like this can help build vibrant and diverse communities by attracting a mix of residents from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and this can create a sense of community and promote social cohesion. And I already feel like a sense of community in this area already, which is pretty overwhelming from other places I have lived, but I have been here for a bit, and I want to see that keep going, and I've seen how the housing market has drastically affected the sense of community in this area. So overall, I hope this special use permit is approved so this development can move forward. Development projects like this plays a crucial role in promoting housing affordability, homeownership, economic growth, social equality, and community development.
Good job.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right. Okay, come on up. If you haven't filled out a piece of paper, just do that afterwards and turn it in.
Council members, my name is Michael Money, 4764 West Kona Drive. I speak on behalf of myself, friends, as the applicant mentioned. Unfortunately, this place is no longer a American dream to buy your first time home at 20 to 25 years old. I also have over 20 employees. 90% of them live in an hour driving Bonner County, Shoshone County, and have to commute. Unfortunately, the idea of this is, I stand behind this and would essentially go as far as with this applicant as long as the deed restrictions that they've spoke about would follow. Essentially, they're trying to get first-time home buyers and continue on that down the line. You're getting an applicant who's willing to go on the line and not get greedy and make a bunch of money, lower his costs. He needs the help from the city. If we can mirror this in this city, it could be done in Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, and so forth. I believe that this is a excellent idea and very, very unique group of folks that are willing to do this. Possibly might lose some money on this, but you know, I don't see a greedy development going in here and selling to BlackRock or guy that's going to come by 10 at a time and rent them out. And I stand behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, another one? Yeah. Come on up and then make sure, also you, sir, if you could fill out the paperwork. It's back on the podium there, and then turn that in up front.
Peter Judo, 3090 North Andromeda, Post Falls. I'm not against development. I think it's a great idea. Looks great, and I think bringing affordable housing to the area is a great idea. I guess my main concern is the city up for it? We have a lot of development going on. We just approved the Greenstone Homes, development that's going up, and it seems like we're kind of falling behind. So I guess what I'm ultimately going as the cottage home ordinance and the proposed tiny home ordinance states that these homes have to be built by code. So they're not going to have any exception to what we follow in our 2017 building code. So they're still going to have to get the framing inspection. They're still going to have to get the electrical, the plumbing, the final, the roughing. And are we up to verify that these houses are being built to code and are going to stand a test of time? Because, it's great to build a house that is affordable, but if it doesn't stand for 20 years, what does it mean? You got 2,000, the tiny home ordinance says what? Is a 2,000 acre lot? I mean, a 2,000 square foot lot with no home? I just want to make sure that the town is up for it and that the cost is going to be covered to ensure that these homes are built to code and will stand the test of time. That's all I got to say about it.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Probably shouldn't ask again. All right. Any rebuttal, Mr. MacArthur? No rebuttal. All right. We'll close out the hearing and go into the review criteria.
Thank you, Commissioners. Before you tonight is SUP 24-4 for the Aspen Cottages. Criteria number 1, whether implementation of the special use would or would not conform to the purposes of the applicable zoning district, which is R1 in this case.
Right. So R1 is for single-family residential. Cottage homes and tiny homes are just that. They are single-family residential. But it would only conform to the zoning district for the tiny home portion, if the tiny home ordinance is approved. And so that would need to be a condition of approval for us to meet this review criteria.
Anybody else?
I agree.
So the recommendation would be to be subject to the pending
Condition number 4.
pending condition of approval for the codification of the ordinance, which is up for consideration before the City Council next week.
Right. So a condition number 4 to meet that criteria would read something to the effect of the tiny home special use permit portion of this application is subject to approval of the tiny home ordinance.
That sounds fine.
Okay.
Yep, I agree. Review criteria number 2, whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by this chapter for the zoning district involved and complies with all other applicable laws, ordinances, and regulations of the city and the state.
I think that's the same as what I just said.
Yep.
Ditto.
Thank you, Commissioners. Number 3, whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with land uses in the vicinity.
So with regards, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say there's other single-family homes right there in the neighborhood, so it seems very compatible.
Right. I mean, this is just a matter of scale. So lot size versus, large versus small. And this is one of those, this is exactly what our tiny home and cottage home, this is the kind of property that this is exactly geared towards because it's a small, awkward, weirdly zoned spot that is, in this case, sandwiched between multifamily zoning and existing single-family development at 6,500 square foot lots. So this is that perfect little bit of infill that probably speaks more towards item D. but with regards to compatibility and health, safety, and welfare, it does provide a wastewater extension that'll provide sewer for adjoining properties, which is will eventually benefit the community by removing septic tanks and drain fields. And there's transportation. There's talk about a condition in here with regards to transportation, with regards to traffic warrants, and that will take care of ensuring that at least we know if there's going to be a traffic impact, and that traffic impact would need to be dealt with via impact fees, et cetera, for a traffic signal, or if it's even warranted. So to that end, I think it does meet that criteria.
Thank you. Finally, whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the goals and policies found within our comprehensive plan.
Under Goal 7, plan for and establish types and quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting community needs and the city's long-term sustainability. I myself am a long-term, lifelong resident of Post Falls. I went to Post Falls School. My parents went to Post Falls School. All my uncles. There's Wilhelms everywhere here. Back then, you could afford a house here. And, you could have one person working, mom taking care of the kids. You just cannot do it now. So I think this is really needed. So under that Goal 7 for sure.
I was going to say Goal 15 here with the sewer infrastructure, that could definitely help the city and other developments going forward, depending on what happens with land around that area long term.
So policy 8 talks specifically to infill development and redevelopment of vacant and underutilized properties within the city limits. That's exactly what this is. Policy 15, which speaks to ensuring that we have adequate land available for future housing needs. That's exactly what this is as well, and provides a diverse housing type and price levels. So this is essentially filling that gap between the $1,600 a month apartment and the $3,000 a month mortgage for a $425,000 home. And so, if that's their target market and they can make it, that's fantastic.
Boy, I guess.
And I certainly hope and I encourage them to do that. That's one of those things that is so desperately needed in our community. And the gap is only going to get wider with interest rates being what they are. So if we don't act now and utilize, make use of the ordinances that we've worked so hard to create, I think it's one of those things that this is an opportunity that we should encourage. So.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Cool. Comments? What's everybody think?
Good.
I'll say, I like the infill. I like the infrastructure updates. Talk about this affordability. We continue to hear about this, and we've been to numerous workshops in various areas in Cooney County over the past 2 years. It seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent. Hopefully, some of these bigger builders will, I don't know, you want to do some city goodwill and maybe not take the big payday and just try to help out the community as a whole. And something like this could start that. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
I think this is one of those, I think there's an opportunity to both be profitable and provide this kind of thing to the community. And, a lot of that, to speak to the one gentleman's comments about building code, Every single house in the city of Post Falls goes through building permit review, building code review, and is built and inspected to standards. So I want you to know that'll happen. And you know, the cost savings in this can really come in the architecture part, where you can make a simple house, but affordable. And you know, I live in a simple house. It's got a gable roof. Doesn't look pretty, but I've lived there for over 20 years, and it's fantastic. And so, you know, to that end, it's, you know, getting people on the home ownership train is incredibly important, because, you know, they start building that equity, and then, you know, move up, move on, and leave a place for somebody else. So I support this.
We had that workshop over this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
There's been a couple of them,
This project here, I mean, it'll be like the first one, I think. That would, and it's a small one to see how it works, so that'd be good.
All right. Who would like to make a motion?
I will move forward with, I move to approve Aspen Cottage and Tiny Homes Special Use Permit SUP 24-4, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.070 as outlined in our deliberation, subject to conditions 1 through 3 found in the staff report, and adding condition number 4 stating something to the legal effect of that tiny home special use permit, as requested, is subject to the approval of the tiny home ordinance by city council at a future date, and direct staff to prepare a written decision.
Okay. I have a motion on the table,
I second.
and we have a second. Can we have roll call, please?
Carrie,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Hampi,
Yes.
Walton.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda tonight is administrative and staff reports.
There's none.
There is none. Any commissioner comments?
Stay cool.
Thank you
Stay
for the
cool.
cookies.
Stay cool. Stay cool. What's the next item on the agenda?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.